You're welcome back to the show. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. And here on the show, we put Ghana first. My guests are seated. We're waiting for one more to join us. And here in the studio, Abdul Malik Kweku Bako. He's editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Also, Egbert Fable Jr., he's private legal practitioner and managing editor of the Ghanaian Observer newspaper. Also in the studio is Dr. Edward Omane Boama. He's Minister for Communications. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you.
Now, good morning to your viewers and listeners. Very long time, Samson.
That's true.
You've abandoned your brothers.
Interesting. Okay, so as always, as you know, your views and comments are welcome. 1422, that's a text line, and this show is live here, coming to you live from the Multi-TV studios. This is your Joy News channel. It's also on Joy 99.7 FM on radio, Love 99.5 in Kumasi, and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. All over the world, you can listen to us either on our live stream at Multi-TV World/streams or myjoyonline.com. Subsequently, the show is available in London and elsewhere in Europe on your Sky channel 235. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on the show. Now, we'll begin with the very first issue which got the attention of the opposition New Patriotic Party yesterday in a press conference, and within very short moment, the Ministry of Communication also issued a statement. And in those statements, you find the words evil used so many times. The NPP accuses the president of up to some evil plot, some sinister thing in trying to sponsor what happened at 8-party headquarters on Monday as a part of an agenda to discredit the NPP and also to boost the NDC's chances of winning power in 2016. Well, the Minister of Communications is right here. He issued a statement also replying back and referring to them as those who are actually up to the most evil. Battle of the two evils, is it? I say, so who wins? We'll see how it pans out in that on that issue. I told you also about the NDC's primaries that happened, the no votes that came out, the biggest, the big defeats and embarrassing ones as well. We'll look at them and the permutations and the strength of the party going into the 2016 as far as its parliamentary candidates are concerned. A lot of issues coming up. We'll tell you about an official search which has been filed at the Electoral Commission seeking to authenticate whether or not Dr. Senator Rawlings is actually a voter in Ghana. And it does appear that from the lawyers who have done who are doing the search, she is not. And by the tenor of the Constitution, she cannot be allowed to continue. Also, you heard what came up about her regarding her children with Herbert Mensah. What is going to happen? Is that intended to spoil her chances at the polls? What exactly is going on? E.T. Mensah, the biggest fall in the process. Well, Samuel George Jatta appeared to have succeeded in overthrowing him with such a huge margin. And he's making some appeals to or making some orders to Samuel George to come to him, or else he's not going to accept him as a son. People are suggesting that that could mean that he could wage a campaign against Sam George and cause his defeat in the major elections. How is all of that going to happen? Martin Amidu says that the white paper on the sole commissioner of judgment debt is actually a 2016 manifesto agenda of the NDC and should be taken with a huge, bag of salt. And there's also a new twist that casts such a potential, blow on the commissioner and the work he did. Lawyer Kwame Akufo will be joining us when we get to that point, and he would make some revelations that suggest that the commission just didn't do its work or was up to what Kweku Bako would say a hatchet job. Well, gentlemen, once again, welcome to the studio. Now,
thank you.
Egbert, let me start with you. the developments in the NPP. What happened on Thursday? We're told around 1 a.m. at dawn, there was this group of persons who went there to the office and took, a stash of arms and went and dumped them on some security officers who were there by the party. Let me read just a portion of the statement that the NPP issued in regard of that. It says here, and I read, that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, our vice presidential candidate, that's how it starts. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, our vice presidential candidate, national officers of the New Patriotic Party, Council of Elders, National Council members, members of Parliament, members and sympathizers of the Great Elephant family, the media, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your presence here this morning at the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party, the very same premises that was the subject of very troubling incident on Monday, November 23, 2015. The red and black attire you see us wearing today depicts the mood of the party. We are enraged, we are outraged. This is an alarming and dismaying moment for Ghana's democracy. We see very dark clouds ahead of our democracy, and we owe it a responsibility to the people of Ghana to express these concerns here and below. We have called you here to protest against last Monday's unprovoked, orchestrated, simultaneous storm raids on our two main national offices, this place and our national headquarters here in Asylum Dam, and its annex at Kokomlemle by armed men in military uniform. Hours after the Monday dawn raid, you would recall that we addressed the press indicating that the party would conduct its own investigations apart from that of the police authorities and let the public know the outcome. This is to update you on our findings. Our findings so far suggest that what happened Monday was a wickedly orchestrated attempt to turn this head office into a bloodbath, and with one aim only, to score a political point against the country's largest opposition party as we draw closer to the next general elections. And then they refer to a lot of incidences and make various connections and come to the firm conclusion that this was sponsored by the state and that the state cannot exonerate itself as far as this issue is concerned. What is your reading of the developments at the party's office?
Samson, let me first of all say that it is very disappointing that in the 21st century, after almost, 20-something years of this political constitutional journey that Ghanaians have embarked upon, to witness what happened at the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party, I think with great caution that the NPP has every legitimate basis to say.
Okay, Egbert, very sorry about this. I'm told that we have a little problem with your microphone. Let me first pick Kukubaku's views on the developments at the NPP's headquarters. Kuku.
Yes, but I want you to grant me a permission to do something before I make my submission.
Okay.
It's an unusual request I'm asking you to grant me. It is nothing related to the topics here, but I've been asked, if you permit me, I'll do so, by Mr. Francis Poku, the former National Security Minister, to put on record that he has not granted any interview to any radio station on earth, including the German Deutsche Welle. You know, there's in circulation a report that has suggested that he had indicated in an interview with this German radio station that it would be unwise for Ghanaians to hand power to the NPP. Mr. Poku wants to put it on public record that he denies that. He has not granted any such interview. Indeed, yesterday he made contacts with the radio station, challenging them to put out any audio evidence of his voice and the so-called interview. But he wants Ghanaians and the world to know that he's been busy. He's in Kumasi. He'll be returning Monday.
Okay.
On family matters. The wife's 1-year anniversary. You know, the wife died a year ago, which is scheduled, the first anniversary is scheduled for the 11th December at the Christ the King Parish Church. He wants Ghanaians to know that since he returned for his wife's thing and relocated, all sides of the political divide have shown sympathy and understanding. And he is not involved in any attempt to invoke partisan sentiments.
Okay.
So he's putting it on record. Sections of the media, the mainstream
I've
media,
picked it up.
as well as social media, have put that particular story out there. It is a complete fabrication. That's what he asked me to do because he thinks this station has the scope and coverage, and this program has also the integrity. And so he thought you could do him that favor by allowing me to put out this disclaimer.
That's fair. Thank you very much. And even before we go to the issue, let's hear what Freddie Blay, who is the first vice chairman and now acting chairman of the NPP, had to say at the press conference about the raid at the party's headquarters on Monday.
Either sent by some individuals or by some powerful people who want to create an impression that we have problems in our party. But they came at dawn.
That's true.
We are keeping quiet.
Yeah.
We want the police to come out with their investigation. We've been made to believe that 11 of those who came have been arrested. Although those who were uniformed have not yet been identified. But we are doing our own investigation because some of the watchmen identified 1 or 2 of those who were in the uniform.
Yeah.
And therefore we are also doing our investigation. But all that I would like through you to tell our party members and the whole nation is that we are calm, peace-loving. We prefer to organize ourselves, and that's exactly what NPP is doing.
Once more on this same subject, as he accuses the NDC and government directly of being behind the raid.
NPP is in no doubt that the attack on our offices was conducted by the state, specifically using certain rogue elements within the national security setup in full collaboration with some identifiable individuals now bent on destroying the fortunes of the party. An attack on the NPP is an attack on Ghana's democracy.
You're welcome back. And you heard Freddie Blay, who is the acting chairman of the New Patriotic Party. You heard him first, soon after the event, the day after, and then the morning after. And then you also heard him again just yesterday, directly accusing the government. And the statement is pregnant with a lot of salvos fired at the government. I'll be reading portions of them to you in the course of this show, and a number of questions that have been posed by the NPP in this press statement that it released, and then we'll deal with the counter statement issued by government as well. Now, Egbert, I'm sure that your microphone is good now, so let's have your take on it.
I was just earlier on. I was saying that what happened at the headquarters and the regional Greater Caribbean office of the New Patriotic Party in the days gone by, it's a matter of national disgrace. It is shocking that in this 21st century, private property belonging to a lawfully registered political party will be visited at such an ungodly hour by persons in military, garb, and proceed to do what they did on the day. The acting national chairman of the New Patriotic Party, after the party's own preliminary investigations, has, spoken. And he minces no words in communicating clearly that this and what took place was state-sponsored. And the party has a legitimate rational basis to come to that conclusion. Because it appears that the game plan of the ruling government is that, there appears to be some disturbances in the NPP. Why don't we feed on it and actually also, remotely and frontally create a situation of chaos so that it will feed into our grand agenda to win the 2016 elections by fair or foul means. That is the fixation of government.
He speaks of this eyewitness account, and it may be a bit long, but I have to read it. And this is what he says, that around 1 a.m. that Monday morning, when the whole nation, and sorry, I need to introduce Felix Kwachi Ofosu right here. He also just joined us. He's the Deputy Minister of Communications. Good morning and welcome. Good morning. Great. Now, around 1 a.m. that morning, when the whole nation was fast asleep, a group of about 15 men in military fatigues, traveling in 2 military vehicles, escorted by 1 police vehicle, invaded this compound. First, there was a knock on the gate. The voice at the door at the other end said, quote, "Police patrol," unquote. The NPP security man saw flashing blue light on a police patrol vehicle outside, and with that assurance, opened the gate. Suddenly, men carrying AK-47 in military uniform rushed onto the compound and rounded up 4 men on the premises. At the same time, another contingent of armed men also attacked our head office annex at Kokomlemle, just 4 minutes drive away from here. They faced no resistance and paved the way for 15 young men in red T-shirts to take control of that second party office. Here at the main office, 1 party security man managed to escape, while the remaining 3, a second security man and 2 cleaners, had their mobile phones taken from them before they were locked up inside the security post for a brief period. Shortly after, the armed men brought the party workers out, produced a sack, poured out its content of guns and machetes on the floor, and asked the 3 detained men under duress to pick the weapons up one by one back into the sack. This was clearly to implicate the innocent men with their fingerprints. With this complete and the premises secured, the uniformed men allowed a group of about 50 young men and a woman, all wearing red T-shirts, who were in a bus waiting outside, to enter the premises, with their ringleader saying to our security man, quote, "We are here to take over," unquote. Together with the uniformed men, they broke down doors, including metal ones, and ransacked offices. Instructively, the one office that was specifically targeted for theft of documents was that of the Director of Electoral Affairs. Computer hard drive there was removed from the machine. Several files, including correspondence with the EC and strategy documents, were stolen. The uniformed men then apparently communicated with the police and went out of the building to hand over the sack of weapons and the detained security guard to the custody of the police and drove off. Our information is that 2 separate divisions of the police service arrived at the scene, and with separate briefs. The first set of police that showed up appeared only interested in getting their hands on the sack of weapons and our security personnel. They did not bother to question the scores of young men who were at the time busily breaking down doors and ransacking the offices. Shortly after, another division of the police, NIMA, came, and this time these officers acted as was expected of them, rounding up as many of the 50 people as they could, as the rest fled. And some of the, accounts they give and then come to ask a series of questions.
Samson, clearly, police vehicles cannot, for whatever reason, be driven by any civilian. Any police vehicle is at any material time driven or under the control of a police officer. So when Mr. Blay says that it was a police patrol vehicle that came to the gates of the NPP headquarters, and then a shout came, police patrol, the security men there are lawful citizens. When a police patrol is knocking on your door, you open up because it is possible that they are even coming to save you from, some attack or to ferry you out to safety. And so the security men, law-abiding, opened up, and whatever happened, happened. You see, this provides a certain basis for critical evaluation of the situation by the acting Inspector General of Police. Under his watch, this has happened so early in his tenure. Is it the style of the Ghana Police Service to lend itself to private enterprises of the nature that took place at the New Patriotic Party's headquarters and regional offices? Certainly no. We've had instances of people, civilians, putting on police, uniforms or military uniforms to go on operations, and they've been arrested and prosecuted and convicted. We are watching to see what will happen in this instance. Samson, critical questions that should engage the minds of every one of us. Dr. Manibuama, on behalf of government, has issued a statement. And when I saw it on the front page of the Daily Graphic today, it more than ever reinforced the New Patriotic Party's position that government is complicit.
How?
In what took place. You see, I'm going to show you something, Samson. We're in this country sometime towards the 2000 or so elections. It was in 1997 when two police officers, Yebi and Avalifo, who were working at the private residence of Dr. Obeda Samoa as security guards, ended up allegedly stealing 100 million old cedis from Dr. Obeda Samoa's residence. These two policemen were arraigned. The money belonged to the National Democratic Congress. These two were arraigned before a regional tribunal. Now, when they were arraigned, the issue that came up as per their defense counsel was that, but the money belongs to NDC. The NDC is not the state. And so why are we being prosecuted? It became a critical issue to the point where the regional tribunal was compelled to refer those matters to the Supreme Court for constitutional interpretation. Now, I hold in my hands the law reports. It says that, holding 4, it says that in the instant case, the Supreme Court, so in the instant case, the alleged theft of the monies, which was said to belong to the National Democratic Party, but that's what they say about NDC, a political party, was not in the interest of only the members of the NDC, but also the entire Ghanaian public, who are entitled under the Political Party Law 1992, PNDC Law 281, Section 19 of thereof, to inspect and take copies of its audited accounts. Now, you come to holding 3 of the same report. It says the stealing of monies belonging to a political party was an offense against the public interest as defined in Article 2951 of the 1992 Constitution. So this is a government, in the light of this seismic position of the Supreme Court, which still stands, where the Supreme Court has said that when you steal monies belonging to a political party, it is an offense against the public interest, and so you ought to be prosecuted. What did Dr. Manibuama and the government communicate? They said, we are rather providing alibi and all the rest of that. One would have expected any government committed to the development, sustenance, and growth of Ghana's democracy to come out condemning outright what took place and commit to a thorough investigation so that the perpetrators will be punished according to law. But this has rather been reduced by government to name calling, alibi. Later on, when we proceed, I will come to Dr. Manibuama and try to advert his mind to the fact that these things that he's talking about in relation to alibi, it happened and it was even worse in the NDC. You understand? It was even worse. But you know what? The government of the day at the time did not take the posturing of the NDC. The Kufuor government did not take this posturing.
You say that the reaction was not measured and was not to serve the public interest, so to speak. Yes. But was it to be avoided? When Mr. Blaze's statement was very clear in making a number of allegations, not only on the point that this was state-sponsored, but also went to the point to say that the government had, slashed funds to damage the NPP's reputation, and that this was also part of the president's desperate third-term push.
Yes. That is Mr. Blaze speaking on intel that the NPP has, which is incontrovertible.
Okay. You are not suggesting the government should not react to that?
You see, the government is entitled to react. Any statement against the government, you are entitled to react. But you are not entitled to react in a way that will further exacerbate a situation which has put all lovers of democracy, true lovers of democracy, on tenterhooks. It is an invasion. Look, what took place is a mishmash of robbery, stealing, political hooliganism, and everything inconceivable in any civilized state. But you have a whole Minister of Communications seated to my left. Instead of speaking for and on behalf of the government to issue a measured statement to assure even the ordinary citizenry that yes, it is the NDC, they are opponents, but we are in government. We own the apparatus of state to an extent, the controls. And so we are going to ensure that justice is done. And that whatever the NPP has said, yes, they are entitled to say it, but we will disprove them by investigating, ensuring investigations and prosecuting this to the very end.
I'll return to you on the number of questions that the NPP raises. But Dr. Manibuama, the Kofi Kra, for example, tweets, he says the raid took Ghana back into the dark days of 1997 and 1981. Disgraceful and unaccepted. You agree?
Samson, thank you very much for this opportunity. And before I speak to the issue, and I permit my saying some of the outrageous statements that the acting chairman of the New Patriotic Party, who says he's enjoying the limelight, put out and corroborated by Egbert Fabel. Let me do a very important and significant thing under 1 minute. Yesterday, together with the family of the late Professor Emmanuel Augustus Bedu, he was an emeritus professor of surgery. We held a state funeral in his honor. He was 92 years old. And for everyone in the medical fraternity, it's a very, very great loss. There cannot be anybody who has not been touched by the exploits of Prof. Bedu, particularly as he spent the larger part of his research career on fluids, that is intravenous fluids and all. And we say that though it's a great loss, at 92, we wish that he could have stayed with us longer, but we know that God blessed him with a lot of gifts, a lot of talents, and he has also trained a lot of people. So on this note, on behalf of our government, once again, we want to wish the family and members of the medical fraternity and the Methodist Church as a whole our condolences once again. I think that the NDC could have been blamed, even here this morning, for the hitches that Egbert Fabel's microphone I developed. I mean, a whole sitting member of parliament of the NPP on Good Morning Ghana once said, and this is just about 3 or 4 months ago, that they believe the NDC has juju them, as in taking them to for some rituals and all that. And he was trying to account for the kind of mayhem that we have all witnessed in the NPP over the past 1 year under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Egbert Fabio, as a lawyer, and lawyers are trained to read and read thoroughly, should have been interested in the statement that government issued, and it's almost about 18 hours now, and should have read it.
I read it.
Alibi itself is the interpretation of ideally graphic, but I do not want to blame them for anything. For the avoidance of doubt, let me read the entire statement, very, very short statement. And in fact, we have been very, very charitable in this statement because we think that it is disproportionate in terms of the recklessness, the irresponsibility that was demonstrated by the NPP in this. And why do I say this? This is a political party that suffered the fate of a whole regional chairman being bathed in acid, losing his life, and we didn't see the kind of organization that took place in terms of asking people to wear red and coming to their headquarters and all that. Let me read the statement. Statement on NPP's false claims. Government is constrained to correct a wicked and malicious falsehood peddled by the New Patriotic Party to the effect that government acting through the military and police invaded the party's headquarters in Accra in the early hours of Monday, 23rd November 2015. For the avoidance of doubt, government wishes to place on record that this claim is a deliberate fabrication by the New Patriotic Party calculated at shifting blame for the horrendous leadership it has had, leading to its rapid descent into chaos, violence, lawlessness, brutal killings, and total confusion over the last year or so. So government denies vehemently. We are aware that the NPP routinely dabbles in anti-government propaganda of the most undesirable kind, but this latest falsehood against government marks a new low in the party's resort to outright untruths to pursue its objectives. As it is to be expected, they have once again failed to provide a scintilla of evidence to back these noisy claims. Over the last few years, the government of President John Dramani Mahama has demonstrated its commitment to the maintenance of law and order and respect for the rule of law. This is manifest in the amount of investment that has gone into the biggest retooling ever carried out by any government of the country's security agencies. This retooling has positioned them to respond adequately to contemporary security challenges. But for this state of readiness on the part of our security agencies, more bloodshed would have been recorded at the NPP headquarters, which has become an outpost of lawlessness and violence instead of the administrativeness center of a political party. Government notes that the police has been investigating the matter under reference with a view to bringing the culprits to book. We call on the NPP to cooperate with the police in this regard and desist from the ridiculous gambit of blaming others for their woes. Let me repeat this. Government notes that the police has been investigating the matter under reference with a view to bringing the culprits to book. We call on the NPP to cooperate with the police in this regard and desist from the ridiculous gambit of blaming others for their woes. Government also urges the leadership of the NPP to end their total abdication of responsibility and take steps to halt the internecine feud that has left the party in shambles. The persistent bickering, open brows, and violent attacks within the party has the potential to undermine public safety and security. The NPP must pause and sip from the cup of wisdom and peace that preaches that constantly peddling falsehood about government and seeking to foist blame on it at a time when the evidence of dysfunctional leadership within the NPP is glaring will not suffice. The government of President Mahama remains focused on executing its mandate of changing lives and transforming Ghana in a manner that will enhance the well-being of Ghanaians. We will not be distracted by untruths and fabrications emanating from the NPP. Signed, Edward K. Omane.
Is that what the statement said?
This is all the statement said.
Yes.
And
you say this is even disproportionate to what they issued?
This is disproportionate.
Okay, we leave that to the judgment of
my
those who
brother
have watched.
But it didn't condemn, the statement did not condemn the invasion of the party's headquarters.
Is here, not averting his mind to the fact that government spoke to the issue of the police investigation. Okay? My brother, we are all witnesses to the level of dissent that we have seen the NPP travel. And as much as possible, if they want to deflect what has happened there, they should look elsewhere. Let's ask ourselves for one moment. Monday was the first working day after our very successful presidential and parliamentary primaries. When I heard the news, in fact, I felt it was a hoax. And quickly, I was thinking of what happened after our Tamale Congress. We returned from the Tamale Congress, and that was when Nana Konadu Ajimai Rawlings, the former First Lady, was elected as a vice chair of the NDC. Dr. Ekos Progabra was also elected. They were all expecting us to have been cutting ourselves into pieces and all that. It was a very successful Congress. We got back to Accra, and then the following dawn, an earthquake hoax was thrown into the system, and several residents of Accra had to move out around 3 a.m., 4 a.m., thereabout. And that became the news. Initially, when I heard this, I thought that was another one to divert attention from our very, very successful parliamentary and presidential primaries. May I once again advise the NPP to cooperate with the police. Fortunately, they claimed there were people who identified certain vehicles. I hope they also identified the numbers associated with those vehicles, and they will be able to assist the police. Someone sent me a WhatsApp message around 2 a.m. This morning, and it had to do with the Champon era and how some student leaders even inflicted certain things on themselves just so they could blame the police. I will urge the police to cast their net very, very wide in this investigation and look even beyond the very people that the NPP will be suspecting would have collaborated with others. Last but not least, let me say that, and we will continue to offer this advice. The 2016 elections is not getting any further away from the political parties. Let the NPP put its house in order. It is getting too much. It is getting too irritating to the eardrums
Egbert's
of
charge to you is that
Ghanaians.
you have this statement and you didn't even think about dedicating just a line to condemn the acts. Because you're government.
My brother, if there is any aspect of this statement that demonstrates that government has not acted responsibly, I'm ready to go by it. Egbe spoke as if we had not committed ourselves to the investigations that are being conducted by the police. What we are saying is that the police must do the right thing.
Well, the NPP thinks that this investigation is really a facade, really.
So
because
really,
the real issue.
So really, then the NPP must be creating their own police. Already, they have damned the Electoral Commission. They may have to be creating their own Electoral Commission. We hear even some of the journalists who went there were also heckled and all. They may be creating their own set of journalists. By the time you are aware, they may be creating their own roads, their own hospitals and all that. Look, Professor Adai says leadership is cause, everything else is effect, even though it is not wholly true. We will urge the NPP to pause, have some introspection, and agree that they are mismanaging themselves.
Interesting.
And so there is the need, and so there is the need.
When
Egbert,
my friend,
I allowed you, Egbert.
No,
I had so
it's
much.
something who,
No, you are really done, and I asked the question, and I think you really exhausted it. Just hold on.
Okay,
I'll come back. Now, quickly.
You see, when my friend Omanibo Amwa sits on radio and pontificates as if his party and where he comes from, his tradition, are saints when it comes to intra-party violence and arrest, I laugh. I want to show you something from a book written by Dr. Obeda Asamoah. I'm sorry to the good old learned Dr. Obeda Asamoah that I have to cite this.
No, but he's written it.
The political
and it's
history of Ghana,
we bought it. We are reading it for purpose.
Go to page 431. I will just summarize. He talks about an incident that took place on 9 June 1992.
Relevance.
He says that, look, the NDC had secured a party office for use, and then that office was occupied illegally by the Eagle Party. This is what he said. He said, I discovered that some were field officers who had been engaged to recruit members. I told the staff to vacate the building as it had been paid for to be used by the NDC. Because the Eagle Club was led by Michael Susudis, a cousin of Rawlings, I was ignored. I went back to my office and called Chairman Rawlings to seek his consent to my clearing the Eagle Club out of the building. He said I could go ahead and do my own thing. With the support of the Secretary of the Interior and the IGP, I took a group of policemen, a special task force to the building, and ordered them to clear out the Eagle Club staff as they refused to leave voluntarily. The special task force did it with zeal, hurling down the banners and arresting those who resisted them. Some of the female secretaries started crying, but I assured them that none of them would be molested. One Dr. Kublin, who had arrived in the building between my first and second visits, and one other person who held onto a door and refused to leave, were the only ones wrapped up. We cleared the building, and then DC moved back in.
Relevance.
If you want to know how those who are in government invade party offices, this is the clearest example.
Interesting. Now.
This is the clearest example.
Okay. Now, let me hear from Kweku. Now, Kweku, wait, Kweku. Now, these are the facts as they summarize of the case again. And it's important because I want our viewers and listeners to keep to the facts as the NPP narrates as we discuss the issue. Number one, they say the police patrol vehicle, specifically a blue Nissan Navara pickup, manned by men in police uniform, drove to the NPP head office around 1 a.m. 2. A man in police uniform caused for the gates to be opened. 3. 2 military vehicles carrying men in uniform came to the party head office. 4. The 15 men who led the raid at the party head office wore uniforms issued by the army. 5. They carried weapons issued to authorized officers. 6. The armed forces issued a statement Monday saying, quote, the armed forces has not officially, and they highlight officially sanctioned anybody to do anything at the NPP headquarters. And we are waiting for the police to come out with its findings. Then we can take it from there, unquote. 7. The police have so far not given any useful information about the weapons in the sack. 8. No action was taken against the trespassers who took unlawful custody of our head office annexed. And finally, 9. Confidential information on the voters' register and related items on electoral electoral affairs were targeted and taken away. If these facts remain the facts, then the NPP has cause to suspect as it does.
Ghana. See, these are facts as presented by the NPP.
Right.
And quite a lot of them have a ring of credibility. But facts on their own really sometimes mean nothing. It's when you relate facts to counterfacts that you get a significance and that gives you way forward. So that's the process. This is what they have said. And when I said a ring of credibility, my brother Felix laughed.
He's actually writing it down.
Yeah. Thank you, demolish it. Why do you think the security man who responded to the knock on the gate at 3 a.m. or 1 a.m. opened the door? Why do you think he gave access? Why do you think he opened it slightly and allowed the people to come in? It's because he saw state authority. Please, I think we should stop there. I can do worse. This is a serious business. If anybody, Omani, please, we are friends. I don't want to get irritated and unduly provoked.
Don't be irritated, Koku.
Let's just keep focus.
We are very focused.
The giggling
here.
doesn't get on air, so ignore it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it gets to me.
Okay.
And that's not fair.
Okay.
I mean, we do that sometimes to each other, but I don't think it's the persistence is not fair. It ought to be somebody either properly, a soldier, a policeman, or posing as one that would actually trigger the obedience that the security man displayed at that material moment, that ungodly hour of the night. So, and you see, subsequently, a very significant thing has happened. One of the gentleman who calls himself Bismarck has said that indeed he procured military uniforms and gave to those ex-servicemen who he claimed were the first line of the invasion. So it appears to us that they neutralized the security people who were at post, the 2 security men and the 2 cleaners or civil elements. And before they proceeded to do the search, something must have happened to make the security guys on duty know that this is a lawful authority that has appeared, even if it was an ungodly hour. So now we are aware that military uniforms were actually on the scene, being used by some characters. What we are not sure about is the military vehicles and police vehicles. That's why I said these are facts presented by NPP. But we have to relate it to other facts which may come out in subsequent investigations. That's what I was driving at. So that those parts, as we speak, are facts from the NPP. I cannot sit here and label them lies or untruth because I'm not in the position to do so. And they've labeled it facts, and you yourself invited us to discuss what they have said are facts. That's the way I was proceeding. It is when you interrogate these facts and other facts that are coming up that you begin to make a sense out of all this matter. Now, so those who were dressed in military, at least there's one thing that is clear. There were people dressed in military uniform. According to NPP, they came in military vehicles and police vehicles. There's a ring of credibility to that, to the extent that that is what the man who opened the window claims he saw a police vehicle with the, what is that thing? There's a name for it, I've forgotten.
The siren, is it?
The siren thing, that the red thing.
Okay, yeah.
Which itself will make you think this is a lawful authority. All those are subject to further interrogation and verification. I'm clear about that. I'm not about to make an absolute out of what he has said. But significantly, the fact that the military uniform guys were able to gain access, not because they fought. They were perceived as lawful authority and so got in. Now, they then neutralized these 4 people, kept them in custody, proceeded to conduct a search, found ammunitions. I ask myself, as we speak, and this has some of the facts, I say counterfacts and elements coming
The
out.
statement doesn't say they went to search and found ammunitions. The statement says they dumped the sack of ammunitions there. They brought it themselves.
No, that's what NPP is saying.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm talking of the other side.
All right.
They
all right.
say they've searched. That's the point I'm making.
That's
We are
correct.
looking at facts
Okay.
and counterfacts.
Right.
I'm not looking at NPP facts in isolation. I cannot make conclusions or significant points on that alone.
Okay.
I can't do that. That's not the way to make analysis of this. Even the interrogators and investigators won't do that if they are doing a professional job. Now you found, don't forget, those 4 people were neutralized and locked up. They didn't accompany those who were doing the search. Then they bring this results of their search, okay? I have been asking myself this very important question. Where are those weapons now? If they are in the custody of the police, who handed them over to the police? The MPP has asked some of those questions. Because it will help us. When the police, because you see, if I got to know that there were guns being stored in a place that wasn't authorized, I don't see why I would proceed to go and neutralize the people, do the search and retrieve. I would rather report to the police, the lawful authorities, for them to go. I've given them intel.
Or when you get to the premises, you get them to lead you to that point. So
Yeah,
that
either way.
whilst you are taking the weapons, they will see you taking
All
them.
that. But none of this didn't happen. Now, when the police that came to take over the weapons, who called them? And when they came and they took the weapons, those people who were there, apparently in military uniform, who were they? This gentleman has told the whole world that they were ex-servicemen. Who are they? They have identities. You understand? I've been saying, I've stopped short of going at government or party. I've gone for rogue elements within the institutions of states who have been part of this thing, obviously. And these are the questions I'm asking. You see, Samson, if the police were called by anybody, let's say the first line, this Bismarck, because he said so, his story is weird and funny. It's even self-incriminating. But in that story, that weird story, are the seeds of exposure of the real conspiracy, and for that matter, the perpetrators. And so, I don't think we should be unduly alarmed at all. Look, this is a very serious development.
Are you open to contemplating that this story can be a complete fabrication?
By whom?
By the actors involved.
No, you see, I'm open to that. But open to that means, that's why I'm for police investigations.
Okay.
I'm for the investigations to be conducted. I've said so, that the institutional integrity of the police, the armed forces, is on the line.
Right.
They can redeem themselves by doing a thorough professional job. I have not gone to the extent of accusing government or the ruling party. I haven't done that.
The army says we were not involved. We did not ask anybody to go there. We want to depend on what the police will do. So we are waiting for police investigations.
Fair deal. But the facts, when are built up, the counter facts, when are built up, will push us in a certain direction. Look, I was saying this is a serious matter. It can happen to any of us at any time. People can come posing as lawful authority because they've got access to uniforms, enter your premises and plant anything, including drugs, and get you into trouble. It's a very dangerous thing. If it can happen to the main opposition party or any political party, let's not underestimate it. Even government should not underestimate it. The state authorities should not underestimate it. That's for me, my fear. And when I look at this, and with all my experience, I can tell you this thing must be looked at critically. That gentleman, has the police asked him who the ex-servicemen were that he recruited? So that the police by now Have they been able to identify those ex-servicemen? Are those ex-servicemen still at large? Those who have been sent to court, they appear to be the second wave. Those who were supposed to have gone in there and raided. At what point in time did they get access to them?
Do you find it curious that the initial reaction appeared to have attempted to connect the asked chairman, Paul Afoko,
you see,
to all of this?
I was going to come to that as my second leg. Let me tell you my own view about those things. First of all, when all this was happening, we hear that Ninoy,
yes, the parliamentary candidate,
yes, says that some people came into his house, invaded it virtually, called the mother. I hope the mother has the telephone number, that they were out there to finish him up or something. And this was because he's perceived as pro-Afoko. That's the first time I had heard that. Otherwise, what I knew was that there was a problem with what the General Secretary was supposed to have done relative to their pools. That's interesting. 2, Same Krab appears from nowhere, the absentee vice chairperson of the party, appears on the scene at the party headquarters. I don't know how what he was going to do there, whether he was coordinating the thing with other party leaders, but he was there.
He said the parliamentary candidate called him.
Okay, but interesting.
I think that's what I heard.
Wow.
If I got him
I didn't know
correctly,
that. The same parliamentary candidate.
You may be confusing two things.
I didn't know.
The parliamentary candidate called him to the Noise residence or the party.
No, to the party headquarters, because
So
I
he
don't know
must
about
clarify,
that.
so that
how he got to get to the place,
which place? The party headquarters.
wherever it was, to get
I
to
think
the
I referred to New Noise.
Okay, New
residence.
Noise.
I don't know
Noise.
about that,
Okay.
but I found that quite interesting. And then he makes a statement to the effect that Afoko's house had been attacked. Okay, subsequently denied. When a clarification came, the clarification was worse. When you put all these things together, it gives me the impression that somebody somewhere knew that, look, this is what is going to happen. Guns are the NPP headquarters. These guns are going to be retrieved. That gives a reflection of a party that is actually in possession of arms illegally, that it could use for unlawful purposes. That's the center. Now, there are people who are perceived as creating problems for the party. One man's house attacked, the other man's house invaded, and accompanied with death threats. All these things, when you put together, gives you a significance of what some people within that party itself were seeking to achieve with this incident. Let me be charitable and say what I've done is just speculative analysis. I have not incriminated anybody. But I'm saying that there is no investigator worth his salt who will not consider all these things and look at the global picture in order to draw the appropriate conclusion.
Let's do this. Let's
Some
hear.
say
Let's hear.
Self-infliction.
let's hear the Danso gentleman who said that he was sort of in the lead as far as this process was concerned, the raid was concerned. Let's hear him.
Me a former assembly member of Odoko Utating. Me a card bearing member. Me a tenant say you call Tamale Ekoyi national executives. And now yati say won't you party name. Until me decide say me pen crofwe dimechi near call party office I could see I'm paying in the front near beside.
I'm a former assembly member at Odoko Utatin, and I'm a card bearing member too. After electing national executives in Tamale, we have heard about the internal wrangling in the party, which is very disturbing. All we want is victory in 2016.
It is a young ranting I have brain about Chobu, a young man or frame Edini Paba. Ain't he say, Bribicosoni and Tiasia, or say a Conian in Pengufunuku.
We are the youth of the party, and in fact, the same people that the party officials will call upon when there are demonstrations.
Casa Ebane Dawson. Into be any time we could yes, you be do about 3:30.
3:30 a.m. At 3:30 a.m. they Ukushia party in Penny for
saying. Car netching a nipa necotring train, and you train netching nipa. Yes, you could train penny for no abano pana, near no Shia. Invisible boss no create you. Intina, ye disarm warm sad time, no. Because in penny for no grammar order say, you will be out about won't come in. What's say?
Mumutuno.
You were too. You went to assaulted rifle.
We got
there around 3:30 a.m. and we're willing to wait. We are party members, so we can go there at any time. The invisible forces had guns, so we had to disarm them.
Yes, I'm calling on a soldier for a man for being soldier at the end of the war.
Me pacho one buy no ex-servicemen womb. Ex-servicemen womb.
Mo say no ex-servicemen come on.
Me say me ex-serviceman. Me say I'm no kasa.
Na Ghana.
You na me Ghana army.
Moko ransack party office one.
Yanko ransack ho enya adwena ye de ko en say ransack party.
Those of us who went there included ex-servicemen. We didn't ransack the party office. We are not working for Paul Afoko or Kwabne Japan or Otiko Jaba. We are simply unhappy with events in the party, including the suspension of
Secretary office. Obi a nim chairman office. Obi a nim general secretary office. Enti enya no kwara say ye adwuma ma general secretary. Ye adwuma ma NPP. Enye Paul Afoko nkun atre say niam ekoso party
including suspension of Paul Afoko.
Ni nyina ka ho.
Well, that's a gentleman by name Danso, and he's what?
A crank.
A crank.
Well,
oh,
I'm sorry. I withdraw. Okay, and I apologize.
But that is only fair.
I retracted and apologize.
Very, very unfair.
Well,
I have apologized.
To the investigation.
Felix,
Yeah.
I want you to come on at this point where the NPP asked these questions. These are the questions it asked. 1, why was the officer of the Director of Electoral Affairs the one singled out for theft of confidential documents, both in electronic and paper formats? 2, which group stands to benefit from getting its hands on vital confidential information about our election plans, including documents on the current issue of a new voters register? Which group stands to benefit? That's the question. 3, who authorized the use of military vehicles for that dawn operations? 4, who authorized the use of the weapons used for the 2 raids? 5, who authorized the use of the police patrol vehicle? 6, which police officers were in the patrol vehicle? Obviously, this one you will not respond on money. When I was asking the earlier questions, Egbert was teasing on money and saying on money. Then he says 7, why was the first set of police deployed to the NPP head office only interested in the weapons in the sack and arresting our security guard, but not the raiders? 8, why did the police not arrest the man in military uniform? 9, is it because the police were satisfied with the identity of the purported military officers who handed over the sack of weapons to them? 10, is there an official army and an unofficial army which the armed forces within the armed forces in Ghana? 11, is there an official police service and an unofficial police service? 12, have the police been able to trace the source of the weapons in the sack? Kweku asked a question. What are the names, units, and identities of the men in uniform? How come have any of the men in uniform been arrested? 15, how come the results of the so-called research conducted by the police military not been released to the leadership of the NPP so far? 16, why were the trespassers arrested at our Kokomlemle office immediately released and not taken into custody for interrogation? And finally, who gave the order to release them?
My final question, is there a CCTV at the MPP headquarters?
It appears there is not.
There's not, but many of the MDAs, they have CCTVs.
No, I'm asking.
No, the MDAs. The MDAs.
Well, that's very simple. What's the value of the NDC headquarters?
You are the very person.
I'm not sure. Maybe that one they have.
Koku was the very person.
If you have a 40-something million plus,
please,
I mean,
maybe after this, the NPP should think about it seriously.
MDAs.
Let's hear.
No, it's a good question, though.
Something, as far as I'm
honest.
concerned, especially because of the way that the questions are posed, they are completely irrelevant. If the MPP were cooperating with the police, they would ask them these questions. If you come and pose these questions and put it in the public domain to create the impression of some complicity on the part of government. I do not believe that you have helped your case.
When you can't trust the system, you are
You
permitted.
see, the NPP is not allowed to choose and pick who they trust. We live in a state. The state is governed by law. Whether you trust the system or not, you are bound by law. So I am going to dismiss this claim of the NPP not trusting state institutions. Why? Now they don't even trust President Kufuor.
Oh.
Again, you see, I even disagree with your reference to the things that the NPP is saying as facts. Nothing becomes fact until it is established and put beyond doubt, such that there is no contestation. They are claims, mere claims, put out by the NPP. Again, you see, Kweku is my big brother. But the notion that it is only state authority or the semblance of it that can get somebody to open his gates at 3 a.m. is utterly risible. So I don't know exactly what he means by the claims the NPP are making have a ring of credibility. Where did that credibility derive from? Simply because it has been said by the NPP. You see, let us not behave like ostriches in this country. And as far as I'm concerned, what the NPP is doing is that they are engaging in bluster. Bluster, just posture, peddle blatant falsehood about government, repeat it often, and create the impression that what you are saying is true. Let us not forget that this is a party that is undergoing a catastrophic implosion. An implosion that derives directly from dysfunctional leadership. Listen, 1992 to date, I have not witnessed an instance where a party has shown more lawlessness and violence than the NPP has done in the last year.
They are saying some of these goings on
have you been in Ghana?
and violence and bloodbath within the party. They are saying that they are sponsored by persons.
They are sponsored
by the NDC.
Why? Haji Afati is caught on tape holding a machete. Invisible forces, their own party tax or militia, whatever you choose to call them, wear T-shirts, engage in violent confrontations in their headquarters, and they say that it is sponsored by the state. So Haji Afati, please. You see, you are only equalizing. You are not answering the question.
What do you mean by
I'm saying that there is lawlessness in your party headquarters. You have not answered that.
I'm just passing a snipe.
So if you mention Azoka Boys, it does not answer the lawlessness that is happening in your headquarters. Samson, we are talking about a situation where 2 people have been killed in the space of 1 year within the NPP. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing can be more grievous. There can be no graver happening in the NPP than the murder of those 2 individuals. We didn't see this hoopla, this public spectacle that the NPP engaged in last Friday being done when these 2 people lost their lives. Are you suggesting to me that with all the lawlessness, the confusion that has engulfed this party, it is beyond them to do what they did last week Monday? In any event, for the NPP to be able to make credible claims, they must put forward conclusive evidence. So far, they have furnished absolutely nothing by way of credible evidence. All we have is the say-so of an NPP partisan who is a security operative at their headquarters. These claims have been repeated by leading figures of the NPP. Beyond that, we have absolutely nothing. They claim that they saw a police patrol vehicle. Samson, in the last 3 years or so, we've given the police over 1,000 four-wheel drives, including patrol vehicles. Which specific patrol vehicle did they see? They claim that there were men in the patrol vehicle. Which specific men were in the patrol vehicle? They claim that there were military operatives. The armed forces has issued a public statement that they did not officially sanction any such maneuver. The NPP claims that the use of the word official is curious. As far as I'm concerned, the military doesn't do anything unofficial. All the operations are official. If somebody goes out of his way to do things that have not been sanctioned, the person will be called out and dealt with. And it has happened on many occasions.
They say to you that this Bismarck Danso guy who claimed to have organized the thugs in the red T-shirt is a known NDC activist who hailed from Suhum and connected to known individuals in the NDC government.
Again, speculation. The man himself has said that he is at Utate. Utate is in an NPP strong with Ablikuma North. That he is a former assemblyman. I can tell you, if you are not linked to the NPP in Utate, you won't win elections. Ablikuma North, I know that constituency very, very well. He has said that he's a card-bearing member of the NPP.
You saw the card?
I challenged the NPP to produce a card, the NDC card of this gentleman. They should tell us which specific police station.
Obey your own prescription, Kweku.
They should tell us which police station he comes from. You see, we are not going to entertain the NPP's falsehood. The blaster that they continue to engage in. They tell us, oh, we have solid evidence of election rigging. We are going to court. The election will be overturned. Nothing happens. We have solid evidence of a manipulated register. When you challenge them, their claims fall flat on their face. You have been engaged in lawlessness. You have failed to manage your activities such that today you become a laughing stock. Basic disagreements within parties that we all know of have been allowed to fester into a full-blown conflagration, such that almost every 2 weeks or so, the police have to rush. The same police that you are bastardizing today have to rush to your headquarters.
I'm saying
to
they're saying you are behind
I'm
this.
saying that, but that is a ridiculous claim.
Including you paying certain journalists to push that agenda.
Because I have asked Haji Afati.
Multimedia journalists.
Haji Afati is a known Akufo-Addo loyalist. The invisible forces are the NPP's creation. Lately, they have the Bogart Bulldogs. These two groups of thugs, have clashed openly. It has led to the destruction of property, and they have called in the police. Why? Soon after the Tamale Congress, was the police not called in to go and restore law and order when the changing of the security arrangements of the NPP headquarters nearly resulted in a confrontation between two factions? Only recently were the police not called in when vast loads of NPP supporters descended on their headquarters demanding the reinstatement of Paul Afuku. Have we not witnessed several brawls, open brawls, fisticuffs in their party headquarters? That is why the government statement indicated that instead of serving as an administrative nerve center of the party, it has become an outpost of lawlessness. This is on full display. Everybody sees it. Something, you have tapes of it. You can play it to the viewing of all those who are watching us this morning. So that they tell us. I'm saying that you must respect. But I'm saying that you cannot discuss this alleged invasion without taking into context. But it's an allegation. It is only an allegation.
You are trying to be.
It is only an allegation. But something you cannot discuss it in isolation. I am saying that worse has happened in this party in the last year. 2 people have been murdered in cold blood.
Cold blood.
If that is possible.
Is there hot blood?
Well, when they say cold blood, you know what it means. I don't think that you have a linguistic challenge.
And the suspects are in police.
Of course, it will be investigated, but we all know that it is linked to the internecine feud within the NPP.
The cliches are too many.
If you are able to murder 2 members of the NPP, what else cannot be done? For me, I say that nothing can be more grievous than the murder of human beings. This has happened in the NPP.
Suspects have been busted.
So when the NPP comes to hold a press conference,
by the same police that they
creates the impression that government is behind what is happening, I think that we need to demand more of them. Again, if I were the NPP, rather than going on this foray, this elaborate ruse of blaming others for your own woes, they will take steps to halt what is happening in their party. I have not seen the show of leadership that is required on the part of the NPP leaders. All they seek to do is to shift the goalposts. Yes, we know.
You say the NPP should not speak.
Without
evidence. And it's the largest opposition in this country. It should not speak when it has information about things like this. It says, for example, that desperate to hang on to power in spite of its abysmal performance, the Mahama administration, according to a preponderance of information we have, they say preponderance of information we have, has therefore put aside a huge budget and a crack team supported by elements in the national security setup to make the job of attempting to damage the NPP a top priority. To the ruling NDC, creating confusion in the NPP is a more competent and convenient way to gain electoral advantage than fixing the myriad of problems they have visited on the country. We are aware of the tens of millions of Ghana cedis in slush funds dedicated to this special project, and we also know of the individuals, including 2 heads of important organizations, whose job it is to fund and fuel the evil plot.
It is just as well that the NPP itself are unable, because of all this lawlessness and confusion,
allow him to speak.
To come to the table with any credible policy alternatives. But I can assure you that on any day, if we were to debate performance of governments, we will blow the NPP out of the water.
Wow.
With our sheer, absolutely, I'm willing to, what is ridiculous? I'm telling you that in some sectors of the economy, in some sectors of our national life, we've done 10 times what the NPP did. I am not afraid of a debate on performance. But let me indicate that whereas we will beat them in any debate on performance in government, the evidence shows that they have mismanaged their party. They are incapable of managing the affairs of a small entity like a political party. They do not have the moral standing to even appear before the people of Ghana.
It's not a small entity. This is an entity that gives you sleepless nights.
At most, let us assume that all the people who voted for Nana Akufo-Addo in 2012 are actually NPP members. 5 million. Ghana is made up of now about 27 million people. We have complex challenges.
People vote.
Listen, we have complex challenges. What I'm saying is that if you can't manage a political party, a political party is a smaller entity than a country.
But if you can't manage the energy situation,
if you can't manage that, if you can't manage that, you have absolutely, but the NPP is hopelessly
drift away from the
if you cannot manage a small party, you can't even begin to speak about managing the country. But the point I'm making is that they cannot come and say that it is because the NPP or the NDC cannot stand toe to toe with the NPP when it comes to discussing performance in government that this is happening. Again, the claim about a slush fund, the setting up of a crack team and all that is blatant falsehood.
And auditory and visual
harassment. It is blatant falsehood. Let them refrain from such ridiculous conduct. Let them present evidence. Why? The slush funds, where are they? They should tell us where the slush funds. Who are the members of that crack team? Who are the two so-called security capos assisting the crack team to execute this agenda? You have torn yourself apart. You have made your party a laughing stock.
For the definition of a slush fund, and my dictionary tells me it's a sum of money used for illicit or corrupt political purposes as for buying influence. And that's what the NPP accuses the
$4 million that is alleged to have.
Let me read some of these text messages to you right away. And this one...
Auditory and visual hallucination.
Well, interesting.
I'm telling you.
Well, this message from Bonti Benjamin in Achimebwakwa says, the NPP's press conference was spot on. I wonder why government officials and communicators are dancing around in circles whilst vital questions remain unanswered. Surely our democracy is unsafe under the NDC. Mustafa Alima Zanga says that it is baffling why the NDC has been alleged to have done such a treacherous thing to the opposition NPP party. If it is true, then I think their action would tend to unite the NPP fraternity the more. The NDC has only succeeded in scoring an own goal. Nanayao in London says that attack on NPP headquarters has greatly tainted Ghana's democracy or image abroad. Those who did this should be ashamed of themselves. UK media is painting this attack on NPP as, quote, Ghana old military regime period, unquote, and started giving Ghana bad image on our democracy. Akofo Atopa says that the incident that happened at the NPP headquarters is most unfortunate and needless. While I will not completely insulate state complicity in the raid, I think our own party people enjoy seeing the party go down every now and then, from which they get paid. The NPP is bigger than any selfish individual. Oliver Bamba in Salaga says, I am petrified, perplexed, and absolutely benumbed by the 23rd November event that took place at the NPP headquarters in an ungodly hour. Indeed, this can best be described as an attack on democracy. Musa in Kumasi says, the illegal chairman, Freddie Blay, can make all the allusions, but one thing they have failed to understand is that delusion is when you fight against yourself and blame it on national security on Red Friday. They say you can fool people sometimes, but you can never fool people all the time. The ordinary Ghanaian is or are very discerning and can read between the lines. Let's say no to lies. Yusuf says, I find it difficult to understand Bekfable's assertion. He hasn't given us clear proof as to the claims he is making that the state is behind the raid which took place at NPP's headquarters. The fact is that they lack leadership skills to deal with internal fighting. The ordinary Ghanaian is very discerning and can read between the lines. Let's say no to lies. The two of you, your text messages are so similar, the concluding part. Samuel Bryan says, this backwardness must stop. The raiding of NPP's headquarters was a dangerous red line crossed. All decent-minded Ghanaians ought to outrightly condemn it. There can be absolutely no justification for the action. It is a dangerous precedent. We cannot allow the NPP raid to distract us. We know Ghana needs change. This was just one more example. I'm taking a quick break here. We'll return to wrap up on this issue and some linkages being made to what is going on and Watergate. That the government is denying everything else, but just like in the Watergate scandal, somebody denied everything else, except at the point where the facts were put in their faces. We'll be right back.